But the question was, what do you plan on bringing to this defense?
Man, grit, energy, speed, heart, and I'm pissed off. It's just a whole lot that needs to be shown on that field, and I'm excited to show all of it.
Based on what I'm hearing on Jaden Daniels' playing style and Cliff Kingsbury's history, that Washington thinks that's a better fit for the current staff.
The Washington Commanders are one of my favorite teams to really dive into, analyze, and really talk about their first-round draft pick, because I'm not 100% sure there is a clear-cut option at the number 2 spot. Now, I personally already know who to pick. I personally have had this pick in for the Washington Commanders before Daniel Jeremiah's first mock draft, right before Mel Kiper Jr.'s first mock draft, because I kind of already knew what the general public was going to do. I knew they were going to hype up one particular player and really discount the other particular player due to things that are probably out of his control. We are going to dive into who I believe the Washington Commanders should be taking at that number 2 pick, but we will also briefly go over who the other option is. But first things first is I really want to find out how the offseason has gone for the Commanders. So away from the number 2 overall pick in the draft, let's talk about some key departures, but also some key arrivals, right? So some players that entered the organization. Let's talk about them briefly, and let's see what kind of position this number 2 overall pick is going to be in. Now, the first departure that I see that really sucks is going to be Cam Curl, safety Cam Curl. I feel like he came on the scene in a very big way. He made his presence felt throughout the NFC East 100%. A lot of people that understood the game of football saw this guy as the top safety. And not to take anything away from the previous top safeties, but Cam Curl has definitely implemented himself in that top 5 area 100%. It just sucks that due to monies, due to the fact that he did so well, he had to leave. It just didn't make sense in a financial standpoint due to the position for the Washington Commanders to keep him. Another player that I think sucks that you had to let him go is, of course, wide receiver Curtis Samuel. It always felt as if he was going to be a guy that really was a huge spark plug for the offense. It just never really seemed like that. He was, of course, dampened by multiple injuries throughout his time in Washington. It kind of sucks that there couldn't have been a 3-headed monster with Scary Terry, Jahan Dotson, and then Curtis Samuel. It seemed as if that was going to be the agenda. It just never really panned out beautifully that way. But, I'm happy about one departure just because we finally have a legitimate answer on if this guy is going to be a long-term asset or not. And that's running back Antonio Gibson. For so long, I didn't even know he was on the team some weeks. I didn't know if you guys wanted to keep him on some weeks. It always felt as if he was always being talked about being traded with, always talked about being cut. But I'm just legit happy that you guys now do have a legitimate RB1, and we are going to talk about that running back later on. But overall, I think when you really scale out the departures that have left the building, there are a lot more. And even though you guys are looking to get a quarterback at that number 2 spot, even Sam Howell leaving the building, it still feels as if that is a unfortunate damper to the organization. But that's not going to hamper what you guys did with the additions. And I have to go over so many because it really is a beautiful masterpiece to see what Adam Peters is doing in the front office. Now, Frankie Louvu from the Carolina Panthers and then Bobby Wagner from the Seattle Seahawks both had amazing seasons last year, pretty much tackling magnets. You get to get some serious maturity and some serious veteran Super Bowl acumen, culture creating aptitude with these two players. Frankie Louvu was a captain for the Carolina Panthers, big part of that defense, big part of the Avero agenda within the 3-4 defense. And then we all know who Bobby Wagner is, a Super Bowl champion, a defensive player of the year, multiple times being the tackling leader for the NFL. And of course, I think he has the tackling record for the Seattle Seahawks. Those two pieces are going to be beautifully implemented within the defense. And even though they are a little bit older, really more on the Bobby Wagner side, like I said, the experience, the depth of knowledge, the culture creating aptitude that these two are going to be able to create for the defense and for the entire team, it's going to be very, very lethal, very huge for everybody. And then you also bring in a guy like Zach Ertz. Of course, he's not going to really give you anything on the field, but he will be giving the rookie quarterback that's going to be had at the moment a lot of knowledge. And he's going to be giving him a great book of how the tight end gets open. Zach Ertz is still heavily respected in that manner. And then Jeremy Chin, that's a beautiful asset to pick in for that Cameron Curl drop off. So you bring in Jeremy Chin, another Carolina Panther, you double it up with Luvu, and you guys, like I said, you're implementing a very strong defense, hard hitters to the ball, very strategic, very technical players defensively. So we really legitimately love that. You even bring in Dante Fowler, who had a really good year last season with the Dallas Cowboys. And without further ado, we're going to talk about your new star running back in Austin Eckler, right? So this is going to be a beautiful rendition for whatever quarterback is to be had, because you have the best run after catch and receiving running back that's not Christian McCaffrey and Austin Eckler. Austin Eckler is also looking for a juice season. He's looking to get an opportunity to really even probably get another contract. He hit the market and he wants to prove himself. What other better way to prove himself than to help lead a young quarterback that is going to be dumping up the ball to him multiple times? So you're going to have Brian Robinson and Chris Rodriguez Jr. learning from Austin Eckler, who is an awesome running back. This is going to be a very, very interesting season for the Washington Commanders, just due to the amount of knowledge that they have brought in to this fairly somewhat young team. Now, of course, the team is getting older with all these people, but there are still very, very young, immature minds that are going to be molded by these veterans. And then without further ado, let's really dive into who I believe you guys should be picking at that number 2 spot. Now, I'm going to say it like this. I don't know at which point, I don't know when we started to see particular quarterbacks win the Heisman and then be passed off as if that's not a crazy feature. You know, that's not a triumphant reward to really be had, especially in a certain division in a conference like the SEC, right? So in my particular instance, I think it's a no-brainer that you guys go with Jayden Daniels. He has a dual threat capability, an effective one. You know, so does Drake May, but an effective one. I think Jayden Daniels shows great promise with intense speed, intense playmaker creation. And one thing that he got knocked on a lot is I believe he has an issue with holding on to the ball. And something just tells me when you're a natural playmaker, as he is, and that LSU offensive line wasn't super fantastic for him, you're going to keep the ball. And anyone that says, he holds on to the ball too much, that's the same issue that Joe Burrow has. And we've all seen Joe Burrow do crazy things in the National Football League. And it just beautifully illustrates a player's ability to create and drag on a play to make the best option for the team at that time. I don't think if you guys do draft Drake May that it's the end of the world. I just think with him, there's no legitimate playmaker acumen. There's no superstar aptitude to him. I just don't think we're really missing anything with Drake May. Jayden Daniels has won a Heisman. Jayden Daniels has had horrible seasons and has came out on the other side looking triumphant. Jayden Daniels played in the SEC where it is heavily respected defensively. And Jayden Daniels freaking won the Heisman. And like I said, I don't know when that became a bad thing or a thing that's not really heavily rewarded for a player's profile, right? And so I just want to say this was supposed to be Drake May's season. This was supposed to be the season that Drake May was supposed to win the Heisman. This was supposed to be the time where Drake May was supposed to give Caleb Williams a run for the number 1 overall pick. But this was a very down year, and I think people are going to make excuses for him, saying he lost a lot of talent, saying he lost weapons, he lost all this. But the same thing happened to Sam Howell at North Carolina. He lost so many weapons. He lost so much talent. and he was heavily scrutinized for it with that 5th round draft pick. But we've all seen that Sam Howell has a little bit juice in the tank still. Like I said, I'm not saying Drake May is bad. I'm not saying Drake May shouldn't be the answer, but I just love the playmaking ability, and I love the successes, and I love the adversity that Jaden Daniels went through playing in the SEC and having to transfer schools and having to pick himself up and understand that no one's going to rescue him. I think that's going to be the perfect mentality for the next quarterback for the Washington Commanders. But let me know what you think. Is it Jaden Daniels for you, or is it Drake May? Like, comment, and subscribe.